All right, ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? What's going on? Welcome to the Real to Sports podcast. We're doing things a little bit differently today. We got a standalone episode on the mark for you guys. We got a lot to talk about. It was Separation Sunday in the United Football League. And ladies and gentlemen, I think we just witnessed the worst launch of a professional sports league in the history of professional sports throughout the world. Don't worry, we're going to cover it all right here, right now On the Mark. Let's go.
On the Mark with Young Mark is brought to you by the Real to Sports Podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of On the Mark. Y'all know what time it is. It's the part of the day where we kick things in a high gear and we bring you the latest and greatest from the world of football outside of the National Football League. So we're gonna start things off with covering the United Football League. Gonna get the good stuff out of the way first for you. Host, he ain't here tonight, but I know he's back there smiling somewhere. His favorite quarterback in the entire football world, Luis Perez, is yet to win a game this season. The Arlington Renegades fall to Wade Phillips and the San Antonio Brahmas. Final score 25-15. To put it simple to you all, ladies and gentlemen, I don't care who you have at quarterback. I don't care if it's Joe Montana or Dan Marino. When your leading rusher only has 33 yards on the ground, you ain't really going to win a football game. Arlington's got to get their one game together. San Antonio basically shut them down. They only had 59 total yards on the ground. Quentin Dormady stepped in, nice for Chase Garbers, and they're playing some really good football. Right now, they are looking like the team to beat in the XFL conference, right behind the other team that we'll get to in just a little bit. Moving right along, we had the Michigan Panthers. They somehow, some way found some offense, ladies and gentlemen. Not just kicking 60-yard field goals. They beat the brakes off of the Memphis Showboats, winning their game 35-18. They completely killed it on the ground. They had 160 yards rushing on the ground. But the interesting thing was my man Wes Hills. Wes Hills, the running back for the Michigan Panthers, took over the game. He led the team in rushing. He had 82 total yards, but not one, not two, but three touchdowns on the ground. He finished the day with the hat trick. And like I said, Memphis is steamrolled. Memphis got steamrolled, I should say, by Michigan. And right now, Michigan is firmly cementing themselves as a number 2 seed in the USFL conference. Memphis, they benched Chase Cookus in this game. They didn't let him play. They're trying to keep him healthy. He's been taking a lot of hits and getting really banged up. And honestly, at this point in the season, I don't know how much Memphis has left to play for. They're really in the bottom of the barrel when it comes to the USFL conference. They're not the worst team, but they are one of the worst. We'll see if they can turn it around. All right, moving right along. Like I said, it was Separation Sunday in the UFL this week. The teams who were trying to make that push to the playoffs are beginning to separate themselves from the competition. Got to start things off again with host favorite team in the world, the Birmingham Stallions. I don't know what to say. Houston basically didn't show up to play. They got blown out 32-9 at home by the defending USFL champions. Adrian Martinez has just burst onto the scene. Week 1, I compared him to the 2022 Jalen Hurts, and he's living up to the billing. He finished the day 11-20 in the air, 155 yards and a touchdown. He destroyed Houston on the ground. He had 9 carries for 138 yards. Surprisingly, he didn't score a touchdown on the ground, but Adrian Martinez has really become a dual threat quarterback in this league. Skip Holtz is insinuating a lot of the positives that we saw from Adrian during his time in Nebraska and later on at Kansas State when he was in college. Deion Kane the former Clemson wide receiver. He's continuing to show that he's a man amongst boys in the UFL. He had another big day through the air along with Jay Sternberger. But one interesting note before I move on to the last game for the UFL, I saw a report the other day that former Birmingham Stallions quarterback Alex McGough is being forced to switch positions. The Packers are forcing him to become a wide receiver in order for him to stay on the roster. I think that's a huge mistake. The dude has proven that he can play quarterback on the professional level. I think he can play quarterback in the NFL. I hate seeing guys having to switch positions and they're really, really good. This isn't like a situation with Terrell Pryor where it's like, you're good, but you're more athletic than a quarterback. No, in my opinion, Alex McGough should be a quarterback in the National Football League. If Green Bay were to let him go, I would gladly like for him to become a Las Vegas Raider, go somewhere where he can play quarterback and throw the ball, because he proved last year he's definitely one of the best at it. Moving on to the final game of the weekend. This is pretty much an elimination game for my beloved DC Defenders. They got smoked at home in a very historic game against the St. Louis Battlehawks. For those of you who don't know, who didn't follow the XFL previously, the DC Defenders had never lost a game at home. They were 10-0 at home in their 3 years of existence. St. Louis was the team that they swept last year, and St. Louis definitely had revenge on the mind. They walked into Audi Field, beat DC 45-12. They just pulled away from them in the second half, living up to that Separation Sunday mantra. DC was close. The closest they were was in the third quarter. It was 12-17. They were just 5 points behind, but it just fell off after that. Jordan Ta'amu had 3 interceptions. He did not play well at all. Really was nothing coming from the running game. And then on the St. Louis side, A.J. McCarron was doing A.J. McCarron things. He went 14-24, 213 yards. They had a solid attack from the running game. Hakeem Butler, he was the offensive MVP of the St. Louis Battlehawks last year. He got off to a little bit of a slow start this year in the UFL, but he has come to play. He had his best game of the season against DC. He had 6 catches for 147 yards and 2 touchdowns on the day. One of those was an 80-yard touchdown pass, and he caught, basically mossed it off of the defender's head and took it all the way to the house. In a corresponding move after the game, the DC Defenders let go of starting safety DJ Swearinger, the former NFL safety, former Washington Commander. He was officially released by the Defenders this weekend. It's a tough road because in the UFL, only the top 2 teams make the playoffs. And with DC sitting firmly in third place, having already lost to the 2 top teams so far in the season, they got an uphill battle. They're not officially eliminated yet, but it's definitely going to be a tough road ahead for the team up in the nation's capital. Now that we've covered the UFL, I got to get to the moment a lot of people have been waiting for. So I told you guys a couple weeks ago during On the Mark that the Arena Football League was making its triumphant return for their 3rd stint as a football league. There was a lot of hype around it. They signed a deal with the NFL Network to broadcast some of their games, and the buildup was there. Then they ran into a wall known as Week 1. It was genuinely one of the most head-scratching opening weeks I've ever seen. To put it mildly, Philly G and his Philadelphia Soul did not have a good weekend at all. To put it to you like this, an article from NBC 10 in Philadelphia. The Philadelphia Soul, 2 days, 48 hours before the game, released over half of their roster. The ownership group who was going to buy the team and run the team, they backed out. They don't want to own the team anymore. And on top of all that, they fired their head coach. This was all 2 days before the game. Hold on, ladies and gentlemen, it gets worse. They get to the actual game against the Louisiana Voodoo. They're playing in a beaten down, worn down stadium. The stadium looked like it had been abandoned back in the 80s and been dusted off for this game. The nets were horrible. There was nobody in the stands. And you remember how I mentioned how they released half of their roster? Well, they had to fill those roster spots with players from the developmental league for the Arena Football League. and it pretty much did not go well at all. They lost the game 53-18, and I can't emphasize how hard that is to do in a league that is literally designed to score points. Like, you don't punt in the Arena Football League. You go for it on fourth down. It's literally all about trying to give the offense as much opportunity to score as possible. And Philly only put up 18 points in their blowout loss. And again, I hate to say it, but it gets worse. Players were then kicked out of their hotels because the team didn't pay the Super 8 motel what they were supposed to have paid them. So the hotel kicked the players out, locked their luggage in rooms. The Arena Football League has kicked two of their former players out of the league and banned them for life because they spoke out about the hardships they went through during training camp. We were hearing things about not having training staff, not having locker rooms, just a whole lot of mess. And for the Arena Football League, also, they were supposed to have their games televised on NFL Network. That was one of the launching points for them with the new season. After the NFL draft concluded, NFL Network was supposed to kick to the Arena Football League to cover some of their games, but that didn't happen. Nothing has been said. There hasn't been an official statement by either NFL Network or the Arena Football League, but pretty much the Arena Football League looks to have lost their TV contract. None of their games from week one were televised on NFL Network. They were supposed to have some games tonight and this weekend. Those have been taken off of the schedule as well. And that Philadelphia Soul versus Louisiana Voodoo, if you go on either one of the Arena Football League's websites, there's no mention of that game. It's basically like it didn't happen. It didn't exist. So I don't know what the hell is going on with the Arena Football League. They could not have gotten off to a worse start. And to make things, again, I hate to say it, but to make things even worse again, in Billings, they have a team called the Billings Outlaws. They found out days before their Week 2 matchup that their opponent and venue is being switched. They were originally supposed to be in Oregon to play the Black Bears. Now they're going to Washington to play the Washington Wolfpack. The reason being is because the stadium in Oregon where the Black Bears are supposed to play had a lot of internal issues where there were safety concerns because in the Arena Football League, there's no out of bounds. You just run into a wall if you're playing hockey. They said that the railing in there wasn't up to par to the Arena Football League standards, so there was concerns about player safety. And then the biggest mind-blowing stat of it all, ladies and gentlemen, another reason why the game was moved is because it's 2024, yet the internet at the Salem Pavilion Arena where the game is supposed to be held wasn't deemed powerful enough for the Arena Football League to stream the game online. So they ended up having to cancel that game, move it down the schedule, and now the Billings Outlaws thought they were playing one team. Now they're finding out days before that game was supposed to happen, no, you're playing somebody totally different. So I genuinely don't know what the hell we can expect from the Arena Football League this season. I don't know if they can turn it around. I think probably the most infuriating part of all of this is the fact that nobody has said anything. There haven't been any official press releases on their website. The commissioner hasn't said anything. They're not really active on social media at all. They don't even have an official YouTube channel. So it's really hard to get information to see what they're planning to do to try to fix this. But they're on the clock. Right now, in my opinion, they've been surpassed by the Indoor Football League, which has shown itself to be the creme de la creme of arena football. And then the National Arena League are surpassing as well. So we'll see if the Arena Football League can finish their season, if they can turn it around. And you already know if they do, we'll bring it to you right here on the Mark, where, again, we cover the latest and greatest from the world of football outside of the National Football League. Don't forget to come back every Thursday. We're going to do On the Mark on Thursdays now until we bring back sports to talk about. So every Thursday at 7:05 Eastern, we'll be live bringing you some great football news. But with that being said, I'll see you guys on Saturday for the Real to Sports Talk Show. And y'all know the saying, be safe and stay safe. I'm out of here, y'all. Have a good one.
On the Mark with Young Mark is brought to you by the Real to Sports Podcast.